Looks like Fani Willis will not get Trump like she thought. Our constitutional bit is on Mexico's constitution because their problems will inevitably become our problems. We're going to also talk about Mexico's new president, and of course, America's least favorite doctor begins to get the heat he deserves. Plus, we're going to do some narrative cleanup before it even starts on that front. And lastly, no one is above the law, except Hunter Biden and the 51 officials who signed that this was Russian disinformation. Stick around, we recap the week's news every Friday evening. It is Friday, June 7th. I'm Alexis Wilkins, and this is Between the Headlines. I want my country back. Two NYPD officers were shot by a Venezuelan illegal immigrant. Now, this was Queens, which I'd like to remind everyone is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district, but she was silent on the issue. She was very busy posting about how President Trump was convicted. This was an illegal that was being housed in a migrant shelter where, by the way, in that very precinct, the 115th precinct, rape is up 71%, burglary is up 45%, robberies are up 34%. These are absolutely staggering numbers. While the governor pretends to not know where crime is coming from, illegal immigrants are shipped in and settle in New York. It's all strategic, and the city spirals deeper into chaos. One of the officers has been discharged and received a standing ovation while leaving the hospital, as he deserves. This is not the first time that illegal immigrant crime has affected New York public safety. And I do want to note, we do not use migrant here. I see some repetition of the left's favorite twist, the undocumented migrant tolerance scale. But because words matter, these are illegal immigrants. They broke the law. They're here illegally. We will pay no mind to the radical left trying to edit more of the narrative, like in this North Carolina school, where a student was suspended for 3 days for using the term illegal alien, where the school administrator actually equated the use of the term to that of, quote, using the N-word.
My son received a write-up stating that he violated a Board of Education policy by using or making a racially motivated comment saying that an alien needs a green card. There certainly isn't a case for racism due to the fact that alien is not a race.
Sure. So on April 9th, my son was returning from the restroom to his English class. Upon returning, there was a discussion about a vocabulary assignment, and the students and teachers were talking about aliens. Christian raised his hand and said, like spaceship aliens or illegal aliens who need green cards. The teacher then told Christian, watch your mouth, and a student of Latino descent turned around and told Christian, I'm going to kick your, you know what. That student was just joking with Christian. They were just 16-year-old boys cutting up, joking. Mm-hmm. The teacher called the admin. Admin pulled both boys and the teacher into the hallway, where both boys said the exchange was innocent and that there was no offense taken, to which the assistant principal, Mr. Anderson, responded by saying, no, this is a big deal. These words do carry weight.
New York is really feeling the consequences of their own actions. The Georgia Court of Appeals has indefinitely postponed any further proceedings in Fani Willis's case against President Trump, and it will not make it to trial before the election. This is a huge win, considering this was still a heavily funded, full-effort case from the left to try to, yet again, get Trump. President Trump had appealed to disqualify Fani Willis from the case, which the appeals court has decided to take up. So while oral arguments are set for October, it's unlikely we'll see any real movement on this case until after November. This also comes on the heels of news that Judge Eileen Cannon, presiding over the documents case, is deciding whether Jack Smith's appointment as special counsel is even valid. Jack Smith was not an employee of the federal government when he was made special counsel, which makes the appointment illegal. Maybe the legal system we have, when used, is effective after all. The president's attorney says, quote, "The appointments clause does not permit the attorney general to appoint without Senate confirmation a private citizen and like-minded political ally to wield the prosecutorial power of the United States. As such, Jack Smith lacks the authority to prosecute this action." In other words, you can't just pick anyone off the street who hates Trump to be the prosecutor. That's not how this works. And we're finally seeing that come into play here. After ethics complaints from Jack Smith that have no validity to the disrespect I wish they gave Judge Cannon, half of the respect that they demanded for Judge Merchan, let me tell you. We will see how this unfolds, but the whole thing just simply isn't looking great for Jack Smith. Let's face it, the current geopolitical situation isn't great, and under this administration, the economy hasn't exactly inspired confidence. As a result, Americans are concerned about their retirement savings, and for good reason. But there's good news. Gold has held its value since the dawn of mankind, and did you know that gold is mentioned in every book of the Bible from Genesis through Revelation? As a faith-driven precious metals company, Genesis Gold Group helps Americans protect their life savings from the threats facing our nation. And here's what I love about them. They don't do gimmicks like the big gold companies and insult your intelligence with absurd claims of $10,000 in free silver. Instead, they actually want customers to be fully aware of all options, not just the ones that benefit the seller, and they educate you all along the way. Get your free definitive gold guide to get started and learn more about investing in gold and protecting your retirement for uncertain times. Visit treasureandtrust.com now, fill out the basic contact form, and a member of the team will be in touch. Again, that's treasureandtrust.com. Our constitutional bit today,
Constitution of the United States,
is actually a piece on Mexico's constitution in conjunction with their newly installed president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Sheinbaum's mentor, the current president of Mexico and one of the leftist party as well, is running a rigorous schedule of reforms, one that the new president is likely to have to maintain. A lot of these headlines I see are categorizing the president-elect by her descriptors, her gender, her religion, rather than on the merit of her policy. A lot of these publications have been on the left, but some on the right. We're going to have to negotiate with this person's policies, not their description or anything else. So today, we're going to look at the merit of Claudia's party and platform and see what we're working with here. The former president is at the helm seemingly of these moves, though they have sent the market tumbling. He does not seem to care and will pass them along to Sheinbaum anyway. So as far as their oversight bodies to eliminate wasteful spending and inefficiencies, the former President Obrador has proposed to scrap the constitutionally enshrined Freedom of Information Body, INAI, Federal Antitrust Agency, COFECE, Development Evaluation Agency, Conoval, and Telecoms Regulator, IFT. It would also place the Energy Ministry in charge of energy regulators, CRE and CNH, both of which are currently independent. In his administration, Obrador lambasted agencies, including the National Election Authority, INE, which he seeks to completely overhaul. Over 700,000 people filled the streets of Mexico City to protest the dismantling of the INE. The Supreme Court would receive an overhaul, cutting the judges from 11 to 9, renewed voting in 2025. He would also slash the number of representatives and senators. This action, both of these actions, pose greater risk to checks and balances. Attacks on the farmers in the corn debate, potentially hurting the United States, a ban on water rights in areas facing drought, a ban on pit mining and fracking, all laundry list items that threaten the economic position of Mexico and, by the way, do very little to address organized crime. I don't know. Maybe they don't want to. Sheinbaum herself, remember, was mayor of Mexico City, the first mayor, promising to curtail attacks on females in the city. But the problem continued to rage on. Mexico currently sees at least 10 women killed on a daily basis, with thousands upon thousands who go missing. Most femicides go unprosecuted. More than 24 candidates were assassinated ahead of the polls. Hundreds more dropped out of their own races. In April, 2 mayoral contenders were found in a single day. The cartels do play a role in encouraging voting where their allies will be voted for and discouraging it through violence where they are voted against. Leftist Claudia Sheinbaum seems to have to be an ally, or else she wouldn't have made it through her campaign, no? Apparently, Sheinbaum received around 60% of the vote. And one more thing, she's a climate scientist. Let that one sink in. So all of this to say that Mexico's constitution is facing major reforms and borderline unconstitutional measures that will clearly continue into Mexico's next administration. On our border update, Biden, let's be honest, the administration, decided that the polls were too bad and they needed to do something to pretend that they were handling the mass illegal immigration problem in the United States. So they passed a nothing burger executive order, which apparently seems like it mimics President Trump's border security orders that Biden so pointfully canceled in the first day of his administration. But they actually don't. H.R. 2 ends catch and release, mandates that illegal immigrants are returned to Mexico. Biden's plan does not. H.R. 2 mandates construction for the border wall. The border deal does not. Many, many more, but possibly the most important, in my opinion, is that H.R. 2 does not fund NGOs. The border deal that Biden passed funnels billions of dollars into NGOs, which is, to me, the main point of this whole bill. The more money they can dump into NGOs, the more illegal immigrants they can shove over the border anyway. Also incredibly important, the border bill uses the loophole in the Families Act and puts children at high risk of being used for smuggling. This order is nothing but a band-aid on the left's hemorrhaging immigration problem. And in the exact same breath, the Biden administration grants amnesty to over 350,000 illegal immigrants. America's food supply is under attack. Beef is the primary target, with everything from climate change to bird flu being wielded against cattle. It behooves Americans to stock up on long-term storage beef, and we have the solution. PrepareWithBeef.com is a veteran-owned company that sells premium steaks with a 25-year shelf life. Ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, sirloin, they don't sell the beef crumbles or beef chunks that other survival food companies offer. At PrepareWithBeef.com, my listeners can take 25% off with promo code RVM. Stock up now before cricket burgers become a thing by going to PrepareWithBeef.com and using promo code RVM. The Congress hearings, oh boy, starting off with the fact that this needs to be more than a hearing. There needs to be subpoenas. The House has sent them before. They know how. This is something that's integral in actual change. We can call on the Supreme Court in the Trump New York case, we can grill Fauci, but real results come from the evidence, and that's what your elected officials need to be demanding. Merrick Garland was questioned over the weaponization of the justice system, to which he responded with answers, but no action. What they respond to is limiting dollar amounts. They respond to subpoenas. We've seen it happen successfully. This is a crucial time. What are we missing here? Fauci sat and was asked why he tore apart the fabric of the country, apparently making arbitrary decisions for the people he was supposed to advise. Audio was played of Fauci pushing to make people's lives difficult if they don't get vaccinated under the Biden administration, among other pieces of evidence. Effectively stating that he made up the 6 feet apart recommendation, this man deserves to answer to the people. What I will say about the narrative shift I see brewing as the left panics, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, is that they're going to try to push the Fauci storyline solely into Trump's administration and put him at fault. Here's what I'd like to say. We don't need to argue with falsehoods. Fauci was an unelected emergency official. He wasn't fireable. The following clip and a lot of other clips suggest that President Trump was trying to find alternate routes. And honestly, all of the crazy happened once he was out of office. So don't let this narrative fly.
And I hope they use the hydroxychloroquine, and they can also do it with Z-Pak, subject to your doctor's approval and all of that. But I hope they use it because I'll tell you what do you have to lose? In some cases, they're in bad shape. What do you have to lose? It's been out there for a long time, and I hope they use it. And they're going to look at with doctors, work with doctors, get what you have to get. But we have it stockpiled, and we have a lot of it. So I want to keep them out of ventilators. I want to keep them, if this drug works, it will be not a game changer, because that's not a nice enough term. It will be wonderful. It'll be so beautiful. It'll be a gift from heaven if it works. Because when people go into those ventilators, you know the answers. I know the answers.
No one is above the law, except for Hunter Biden, the gun-wielding, cocaine-doing first son of the United States. Hunter's trial began this week in a reverse version of President Trump's rigged New York trial, the jury instead geared towards the defendant. But my main issue here with this whole case is the laptop. In 2020, 51 intelligence experts signed a letter stating that the laptop that was just entered into evidence in this Hunter Biden case was Russian disinformation. 51 people who are supposed to know what they're talking about and not to lie to the American people said something was Russian disinformation. Debatably influencing the election, that and Twitter 1.0 censorship of the story James Clapper and John Brennan led and leftist peddled was apparently proven within evidence, and our judicial system was a complete lie. How are these people being held accountable? They want to hold people accountable for exercising their First Amendment rights and questioning the merit of an election. But they won't question the lie that hid evidence towards a corrupt Biden crime family. This lie was then used and peddled in debates as evidence for a Russia hoax, which is the most classic fallacy of all time. Take a look.
Talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
I have to respond to that.
Please,
because look,
very quickly.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Yes.
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race.
They already tried a Russia hoax. It didn't work.
Perhaps the most egregious and effective act of sabotage against the truth was the public letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials that claimed the laptop had, quote, all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation, unquote. That letter itself was an information operation that interfered with and impacted the 2020 presidential election to a far greater extent than anything Russia ever could have hoped to achieve. Each of those intelligence officials needs to be interviewed to determine how that letter was masterminded.
And now the fake laptop has been entered into evidence to stand for all time as the truth. It was Hunter Biden's laptop. They try to incarcerate people telling and sharing the truth. In the clip previously, you heard the defamation of Rudy Giuliani. The woman who found Ashley's diary is the one in criminal question. And now the Biden laptop is more debated over who found it, who turned it in, the legality of that, versus the fact that it was real. And 4 years ago, 51 people said it wasn't. When we claim justice is dead, this is what we mean. Last but certainly not least, the anniversary of D-Day was this past Wednesday, but we want to take a moment here for the brave men, what I would call the best of men, stormed the beach at Normandy, and some laid down their lives for this country. While Joe Biden was doing whatever this is.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin.
And also, whatever this is.
Here in Europe, we see one stark example. Ukraine has been invaded by a tyrant bent on domination. Ukrainians are fighting with extraordinary courage, suffering great losses.
In his interview with ABC, he decided to use the opportunity to state that American weapons were being used in Ukraine against Russia.
I know for years you resisted the idea of American weapons being used for any sort of direct strike inside Russia. But we did witness this shift in recent days, authorizing American weapons for limited direct strikes. Are American weapons being used right now inside Russia?
They're authorized to be used in proximity to the border. We're not authorizing strikes 200 miles into Russia. We're not authorizing strikes on Moscow, on the Kremlin.
And then to attack Russia, which if we're all still learning history, which I'm sure the kids these days aren't, Russia was famously allied with America in this war. Don't ask the Ukraine nationalists who their grandfathers were pulling for. You won't like the answer. But besides the current failure of this administration, U.S. patriots have some men to honor. We will be honoring the men in the greatest generation, the men who created good times, the men who defended American freedom. Some clips to commemorate the day. Watch.
The real truth?
Yeah.
I feel like a foreigner in my own country lots of times, and I don't like it. It makes my heart real heavy. And I just hope we can pull out of this. There's too much Hollywood going on in Washington all the time. The important subjects they don't cover. So the thing is, I hope all the guys will rally up and we'll go back and straighten it all out.
And people don't realize what they have. They bitch about it. They do. And then nowadays, I am so upset that the things we did and the things we fought for and the boys that died for it, it's all gone down the drain. Our country's gone to hell in a handbasket. We haven't got the country we had when I was raised. Not at all. Nobody will have the fun I had. Nobody will have the opportunity I had. It's just not the same. That's not what I was. That's not what they died for. It's just not it.
We in America have learned bitter lessons from 2 world wars. It is better to be here ready to protect the peace than to take blind shelter across the sea, rushing to respond only after freedom is lost. We've learned that isolationism never was and never will be an acceptable response to tyrannical governments with an expansionist intent. These are the boys of Puente Hope. These are the men who took the cliffs. These are the champions who helped free a continent. These are the heroes who helped end a war. You all knew that some things are worth dying for. One's country is worth dying for, and democracy is worth dying for because it's the most deeply honorable form of government ever devised by man. All of you loved liberty. All of you were willing to fight tyranny, and you knew the people of your countries were behind you. Here in this place, where the West held together, let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Let our actions say to them the words for which Matthew Ridgway listened. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and born by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
This country is great. American exceptionalism is alive and well in the memory of the men who made this country exceptional. That's all for today. Thank you so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. We come out with episodes every Friday evening, so make sure you keep a lookout every week for the weekly update. Between the Headlines is now part of the RVM News family, and make sure you check out their socials and rvmnews.com. I'm Alexis Wilkins. As always, do your own research, be good to one another, speak up for the things you believe in, and remember, the truth is always somewhere between the headlines.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest.
To get your free definitive gold guide and get started learning more about investing in gold and protecting your retirement from uncertain times, visit treasureandtrust.com now. Fill out the basic contact form and a member of the team will be in touch. Again, that's treasureandtrust.com or call 855-625